Hello, friends. Hey, so glad that you tuned in with us today. In the studios, we have Michelle Garland. Hey, Michelle.
Hi.
We're so glad that you're here today.
Thank you for having me.
I was reading your bio. I can't believe you've been the North Texas Kids Director for 8 years.
8 years.
I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around. I'm not too good with time.
You
probably
and
figured
me
that.
both. You and me both. It does not feel that long for sure. Yeah.
You've been serving kids for 22 years.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a lifetime, right?
I'm only 23, so I started really young.
You're married. Your husband's name is Michael. Is that right?
His name's Michael.
And you have 2 children.
2 girls.
2 girls. Yeah. Tell me about your girls.
Ava is 17. She's a junior in high school, and Emma is 15. She's a freshman in high school. So, yeah.
And so you guys live in what town?
We live in Midlothian.
Midlothian.
Work out in the district office in Waxahachie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are your 2 girls night and day, or are they?
Oh, they're polar opposites. Yes. My firstborn is a very stereotypical firstborn, very responsible, does all of the things, very intrinsically motivated. My youngest, she's more of the free spirit. I used to tell people when she was younger that she's the one that's going to keep me on my toes, keep me young, But they're great kids. They both love Jesus, involved in their local youth group. Yeah. Both of them going on a missions trip this summer. They're both on our camp team over the summer, so I'm blessed for sure.
I also saw you're from Phoenix, Arizona.
I am, born and raised.
I had no idea.
Yeah, born and raised.
What part of Phoenix?
So I was actually born in Phoenix proper, and then spent a lot of my childhood in Phoenix proper, and then we moved up a little bit north to Glendale.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
For my high school years. Came out to Southwestern when it was Southwestern Assemblies of God University, not SAGU, for college, and then moved back home to Phoenix and lived there. We moved here when I was about 34. This will be our 10th year here in Texas.
So you met your husband in Phoenix.
I met my husband, actually, this is a fun story. We, at the time in Waxahachie, if you go there now, there's lots of restaurants, lots of shopping, lots of things to do. At the time, there was nothing. There was a college and there was some mom and pop kind of places. So I was working at the Olive Garden in Duncanville, Texas, and he was also working there, and we had some mutual friends that introduced us. So that's actually how we met.
I actually was at Olive Garden with my kids not too long ago. Time hasn't been real kind to it.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah.
Waxahachie, on the other hand, oh my goodness. They actually had an article last week about the growth that's taking place in Waxahachie. All you have to do is drive down 77.
100%.
And you can see all of it. And the construction, it's not as bad as Dallas. But percentage-wise, it probably is. It's lots of stuff taking place. You also
definitely
are an adjunct professor at Rio Salado. Is that
Salado.
Right? Mm-hmm. Salado?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
How'd you know about that? Yeah. So I teach online for a community college. So it started when I actually lived in Phoenix. I would teach in-person classes. And then when we moved here, our dean or director of our program asked if I would continue teaching online. So I moved to just an online platform. My master's degree is actually in counseling. And so I teach counseling and personal development classes. It's a lot of fun. It's always been, when you're in vocational ministry, you can get, if you're not careful, you can surround yourself with only ministry people and not have ministry of your own,
Right.
And so it's been a great opportunity for me to have ministry outside of what I do for a living.
So not only do you lead the ministries of the district children's, tell us about last weekend. You guys just had this big children's pastors conference. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we had about 250 from all over North Texas. Actually, a little bit of people from South Texas, a couple people from Oklahoma came together. Kids pastors or leaders in some capacity. So some of them were rural church volunteers. Others were the megachurch kids pastor and their team. But coming together to learn and grow and network and collaborate. And so we do a 2-day event, not 2 year, a 2-day event every year. And so this was our weekend to do that. So Friday night, we did something a little bit different, which was really sweet. So we recognize that if you're in kids ministry, oftentimes on a Sunday morning, you don't have the opportunity to attend a church service, right?
Most of the time, I would say, yeah.
Right, yeah. So we actually did a night of worship.
Mm.
And so we recognize that
Good
in
for
order
you.
for someone, in order for God to do something with your hands, he needs to first do something with your heart. And so we really, Friday night, wanted to focus on an opportunity, a moment for them to just pause and breathe and be still, and just let God speak. And then Saturday, all day was very practical. So we had a couple of keynote sessions on being an encourager, about being an emotionally healthy leader. And then we had 9 different breakout sessions, everything from safety and security to preschool ministry to how to run an effective kids ministry service, all the things. So it was a really great time, tons of fun. Yeah.
There's probably a lot of people watching today that are in a local church someplace, and you said a word that has grasped people's attention right now, and that word is security.
Yeah.
If you were to tell someone today you wanted to help them in this area of security, what would be your advice?
Oh, man, that's a very loaded question, and it can go lots of different directions, right? I mean, I think your basics are, obviously, we recognize now that a background check isn't an end-all. Something coming up on someone's background check just means they've been caught.
Right.
And so just making sure you have measures in place to keep the kids safe in your environment. At the district level, we use a platform called Ministry Safe that does not only the background check, but does additional training to look for people that might be predators, to screen that out. Pastoral references we would always encourage, or references of any kind, really. So there's that, basic level. Then you've got like the whole drop off and pick up thing where kids are being dropped off and picked up, making sure they're being dropped off and picked up by the right people.
Yep.
A lot of our churches are using the sticker system for that. So it's loaded for sure. There's lots of facets to it. I would say the majority, I don't want to quote a number because I would just be making up a statistic to make up a statistic, but I would say the majority of our churches probably have at least the background check part in place. But man, if we want to keep kids safe, and you've done ministry a lot of years, you've seen what happens when we're not taking the steps to keep kids safe. If we want to keep kids safe, we got to go above and beyond that.
Yeah.
That first step.
Yeah. In society today, it's easy to take shortcuts.
It really is. Mm-hmm.
We actually put tools in people's hands that makes us lazy.
Yep.
Instead of doing the homework.
Yeah.
And you're right. If our motive is right, which is to protect the children that the Lord has actually entrusted into our hands, then we'll go that extra mile, whatever it is, to make sure that our kids are protected.
Yeah, and a lot of our kids that are vulnerable in whatever way, whether that's food vulnerability or physically vulnerable, whatever that looks like for them, they don't have somebody advocating for them.
Right.
And so recognizing that God has placed these kids' leaders there, just like you just said, he's called them to steward that well and to be their advocate when no one else will. Yeah. That's important.
Yeah. In the church world, it's easy to allocate dollars to advocate for adults. Mm-hmm. It's a little more challenging to allocate those dollars for children, and yet I used to say children were our future. I'm not sure that children aren't our today.
They are, yeah.
If we don't take care of them today, then there is no future.
Correct, yeah.
And whatever it costs.
Yeah. We were talking about this a lot last summer. It was actually our theme for our kids' camp, is that it's not the next generation, it's the now generation.
Yep.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Summer camp, I'm glad you mentioned that. Summer camp obviously is a big part of what you do every year.
Yeah.
A little on the time-consuming side.
Yes.
I know enough about summer camp that people think when you get there, we're working. That's accurate, but if you haven't done...
Yeah. There's a lot of months that go into it before you show up there, yeah.
There's a lot of training, a lot of coordinating, and if you do all that well, then you put yourself in a position for the Lord to do something So you've been doing camp for forever? Like,
Well, not at this level, right? So Arizona, where I grew up, we did lead several camps there for our church, but their campground only quote unquote held 300 kids, and so, we only did one camp for 300 kids versus 5 camps for 3,000 kids. So it's not really an apples to apples comparison, but yes, I've always had a huge heart for camp and just the impact that it has and has the potential to make on kids and students. Just a moment or a few days, moments maybe to unplug, to set the device down, because it doesn't work out there anyway, right?
it doesn't in April, that's
no,
for sure.
Right. So it doesn't work out there anyway. So just put it down and really just lean into God, and really press in, lean in a way that you wouldn't have the opportunity to do in a timed Sunday morning environment.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing for us. Even though it's not apples and apples for us, we're trying to get our kids unplugged. We're just trying to get them out of the city.
Yeah, that's fair.
When the first year that we had started Metro, at that time we were doing nothing but sidewalk programs. Seeing God move in kids' lives, but so many issues, so many challenges that wasn't going to happen out there on the parking lot or vacant lot, wherever you're at,
Yeah.
Too many other things going on, distractions, which is what you're talking about with the kids with electrical devices.
Yeah.
It's the distractions.
Right.
So I actually went to who was our superintendent at that time, Brother Durwood Dubose, and I told him, I said, Brother D, I think if we could just get these kids out of the city for a few days, God could do something, begin something in their life. And so exactly what you were saying, it's creating that God moment where you plan forever, you pray like crazy. And as you know, even with good planning, it's still, people can be people, things happen, life happens, somebody gets their arm broke, or, asthma. For us, asthma is a huge problem. So you got somebody that's one of your key people, all of a sudden they're stuck at the hospital and can't get back because of the kids,
Yeah.
But still, all you're trying to do is you're just trying to provide this venue.
Just create space.
Yeah. Where God can move in their life. And the beauty of camp is that it can happen anytime. I think we, in the church world, because this is the way it happened for us, we want to get them to the altar, which obviously we do. But if we're not careful, we think the only thing that's going to happen is in that one altar time or 2 altar times, whatever it is you have each day, and then that's the only venue that God can move that day.
Yeah.
Which it is the most obvious
Right.
venue, but it's not the only venue.
Right. Well, in order to pray with kids, you've got to play with them first.
Oh, yes.
And they're watching so much more of your life when you're out there in the middle of a field than they are when you're in that building.
No question.
Yeah.
Plus, for us, the probability of conflict, it's like 100%. So it's during those moments of conflict, and you start asking questions, okay, why did this happen? Well, they did, no. Why did this happen?
Right.
Had nothing to do with, what just transpired right there.
Yeah.
What's going on with you?
In your life that nobody knows, you haven't told anybody about.
You brought this with you, which is why we have camp.
Right.
We know you brought this with you. And you're here because the Lord wants to do something. And that only happens one-on-one.
Right. Yeah, and just reminding kids that that's a safe space.
Exactly.
That they can process those things in that environment and not have to worry about being judged or, getting in trouble necessarily. But
right.
Just having that safe space.
You've given your life. I think my first thought on this was you've given your life to children.
Mm.
Would you say that's an adequate statement?
Yeah. Tried to anyway.
Me too. Me too. And people ask us, how you can't be a children's pastor your whole life. I went, why not?
Yeah.
You know, the older you get, the more they trust you.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, they look at you, I guess they go, oh, this guy's old anyway. You know,
Yeah. I think the key as we get older is just surrounding ourselves by a young team.
Oh, no
know?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, by being older, too, I was talking to Chris before we were recording today. The beauty of having done this a few years is that it's like the Holy Spirit gives you insight into people's life just when you look at them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look at a child and you can go, that child's in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You may not know what it is, but you know they're in trouble.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't give you that insight just so you can know they're in trouble. He wants something to happen.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't get in trouble by themselves.
Right.
So, you know, one of the things that kids used to say all the time is, well, this is a bad kid. I go, no. Not a bad kid. That made some bad choices.
Right.
But they're not bad kids.
Yeah.
They probably had some bad things happen to them.
Yeah.
But they're not bad kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, camp provides a venue to get us past that. But I would say even beyond that, Michelle, not only have you given your life to kids, but I would say that you've given your life to what? I know what I'm thinking. I would like to hear what you say. You said, I've given my life to...
Oh, geez. Put on the spot.
This is live straight through, too, sister, so there's no editing here.
I don't know. I don't know what you're thinking. Oh, man, I would say kids and families. I don't know that I would say anything else.
Yeah, I would say leaders.
Oh, leaders.
I've watched you. I'm a watcher. I watch people all the time. I'm always fascinated with people, you know. I'm going, okay, what makes them think? Why do they do this, you know? Why is it there? Why is their gifting over here? Why have they decided to dedicate their life to do this? And so I would say two things for you. One is that obvious. I think it's very obvious you've given your life. That's where we were going a while ago. You've given your life to minister to kids. So have I.
Yeah.
You know, I believe in kids. I believe that if we can reach them while they're young, then they won't be, hopefully, as broken.
Right. Yes.
When they get into those adult lives.
Yeah.
But then secondly, we have a responsibility to be intentional about raising up leaders. It doesn't happen by accident. You have to be intentional about it. And you have to be willing to invest in them. Mm-hmm. And I've seen you do that the short 8 years you've been here. Now, and I'm not really good on time. When I saw that 8 years, I went, how can that be? 8 years?
I don't know. I don't even know. I guess time flies when you're having fun, but I sure feel like it's only been 2 years. But yeah, somebody asked me to do the math last week, and I was like, there's no way. Hold on. I think I'm counting wrong.
Yeah,
you know?
No, you've done that.
It is. It's been
and I've
8
watched
years.
you bring a group of people together year after year, very diverse. You've given them freedom to do whatever their strength is, and yet at the same time harness that energy. And have always kept the children at the front. It was never, particularly when you have a group of people that are very, very talented, it's very, very easy for it to become about me.
Yeah. It's true.
Instead of being about the children.
Yeah.
You know, that's, if we have a true servant's heart, I mean, Jesus showed us this over and over and over again. You know, the commercial that came out the other day, and I just barely caught it, the new commercial on He Gets Us, about them washing feet. I saw as usual, I'm not a big social media person for a lot of reasons, except when it comes to podcasts. I think podcasts are outstanding, right?
Definitely this one, too.
But I saw I heard a lot of complaints of people on social media complaining about that commercial, about him washing the different feet. And it really doesn't matter. We're not even going to go into that. But I was impressed with the fact that it showed Jesus washing everybody's feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he's called us to do.
Yeah.
He's called us to wash other people's feet, but at the same time, to take and raise up the next generation. Let's be real here. We're probably not going to be here, should the Lord tarry.
Right.
We're probably not going to be here as long as we thought we were going to.
Right.
And each week we try to come up with a nugget to give people. And the verse I thought about when I thought of you was Luke chapter 6, verse number 40. It says, students are not greater than their teacher, but the student who is fully trained will become like that teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But the student who is fully trained will be like that teacher. I've seen you, Michelle. We have raised up a generation of leaders here at our district, and I'm very, very grateful for you. I really appreciate the investment that you've made.
Yeah, it's an honor. It's an honor and a privilege to be invited to lead in this role and in this way. And our leaders, I'm of course biased. I think North Texas has the best leaders out there. They're very easy to love, and we do have some ridiculously talented people, in that group. I mean, these people have more talent than I have, like in their tip of their pinky than I do in my entire life. But it really has always been it's not about us mentality. It's about him. Yeah. And this is a privilege. It's not a right. And so if we keep that at the forefront of our mind, then we create that space for God to do what he wants to do in the kids and in the leaders.
Yeah. I've been around talented people my whole life. I think that's good news, and it's also bad news.
Yes.
Probably one of my greatest disappointments in life is to see people who are talented, and it becomes about me.
Yeah.
Instead of about serving.
Right.
It goes back to talent is in the same way as events. We place real high value on talents. We place real high value on events. We don't place a lot of value on faithfulness or in longevity.
Yeah.
What you have done with your life, way beyond just being here at the North Texas District, it's much more important than the multiple talented people that are on your team. The people that are faithful, those who stick around, they're the ones that have the greatest impact. So I commend you for that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for investing in the kids in this district and the leaders. Hey, you've seen our kids at camp. That's kind of a good news, bad news, right?
That's fun. We need some of that energy to come to our camp. That's fun right there.
Be careful.
The last time I walked in there, y'all were battling back and forth, and I was like, all right, okay, this is fun.
It's aggressive. There's no question about it. It's definitely aggressive. Some of our team has had the privilege of serving with you at camp. We have this incredible dream of building, long-term facilities, and our goal is to do it absolutely debt-free. So there are people watching today, they're listening today. Why should they get involved today with Dallas Metro?
Man, I was actually listening to another podcast driving up here because it was about an hour in the car, and it was just reaffirming that kids, that their spiritual worldview, if it's completely formed by the time they're 13 years old.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if we can reach them while they're young, then like you said earlier, then maybe they don't get into danger when they're a teenager or when they're a young adult or when they're an adult. But even if they do, there's a higher likelihood that they come back to their faith if they've been taught when they're young. And so anybody that has the opportunity to get involved with Dallas Metro, to be a part of the legacy of what has been established here, of reaching these kids, of creating space for them, of advocating for them, man, you don't want to miss out on that. They don't. We
had a kid that he's not a kid, it's a young man that came back. It was during the Christmas holidays. And I hadn't seen this boy in like 30 years, okay? So when he came back up, I
didn't recognize him.
Yeah, immediately, you know the question.
Yeah.
Do you know me?
Do you remember me?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So fortunately, he rode Barbara's route, so that was my excuse. Well, you were on her bus, So, but he told me I knew the neighborhood he was in, tough neighborhood. The neighborhood was so tough, the apartment complex, that for a season we'd even run the bus in there because of the gunfire.
Wow.
So I said we can go in there and visit. I said, but I don't think our bus going in there being target practice is probably not the best idea,
wise.
right?
Yeah.
So they would walk out and get on the bus but he's a single parent home, didn't know his dad. Got caught up after he left there. I don't know where they moved. He got caught up in drug traffic, ended up in gangs and in prison. And so while he was there in prison, he flashed back to his days at Dallas Metro.
Wow.
And he remembered. He says, he said, Pastor Clay said, I remember you guys did all these crazy things every week. He said, but I knew how it was going to end every week. He said, you always ended in prayer. He said, I was in trouble. I knew I was in trouble. And he said, so I knew while I'm sitting in this prison that I needed to pray.
Wow.
And so this pastor was talking to him, and this young man, he took and rededicated his heart to the Lord in prison. He said, somebody was praying for you before you accepted him today. He said, did that ever happen to you as a child? And that's when he remembered back to riding our bus every single week. He said, Pastor Clay said, I used to say this every week. Everything begins and ends in prayer. He says, you were the person that prayed for me. He said, I came back to live in Houston now. He said, I came back today to say thank you.
Wow.
Thank you for praying for me. And let you know that my son he'll have things that I didn't have because of what you invested in me. And so, we have this incredible dream of building new facilities because there's people ask us, say, okay, we know what you've done so far. Why move forward? Well, there are thousands and thousands of children just like that.
Still more work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're still waiting for somebody to come knock on their door and invite them to come to either our indoor program or one of our sidewalk programs. And this new facility it'll provide an opportunity. It'll be a safe haven, a home that they can come to every week. So
it's almost like a respite, a place they can go, almost like a camp where they're able to disconnect, that they're able to have that safe space to know that the people in there really want what's best for them, want God's best for them, and can advocate for them.
If I had, and something I had asked of Stacy, and I'll ask of you today. I was just thinking of this right this second. With the dream, one of the dreams we have is that just like, I remember when Lakeview Camp was a dream.
Yeah.
They had the land, but it was a dream. And so at that time, Lily Pierce was the WM director. And so there was no buildings or anything out there. But they had ladies walking around praying over that property. And the result of that is what we have today.
Sure.
At Lakeview.
Yeah.
Because it was beyond the WM department, but the WM they spearheaded that.
Yeah.
Praying over that property. So that's one thing I've asked Stacy about this new property. Is like for some teams to come out because even when you don't know what the presence of the Lord is, when you come in contact with it, you know something's different.
Something's different.
Something's real here. And so I'm going to invite you today. Come.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pray over that property. Not only do we want it to be a safe haven, which we do, but we want the anointing of the Lord, just like that anointing that you experienced this last weekend.
Right. Yeah.
At the retreat, the anointing that you have every year at the summer camps. That's because it's not because we're great planners. Now that's not an excuse.
Yeah.
Not to plan, but it's because somebody prayed.
Right. Yeah.
So I've asked you to come and be a part of that. And for those of you joining us today, hey, thank you for being here today. Michelle, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
So glad for that. You guys can go. Why don't you go to our webpage, dallasmetro.org, click on All In, then click on What is All In, and underneath there you can see the pictures that Michael Cathcart has drawn. And I'm asking you, would you prayerfully consider making a donation to Dallas Metro? And then could you take it a second step? Would you consider supporting us for the next 12 months so that we can build this new facility? It'll provide a safe haven, a place where kids and families can have an encounter with the Lord Jesus Christ. Appreciate you being here. See you next week. God bless you.